Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Bibi.
Welcome to Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Bibi, and with us here today for our program on How Do You Lead, we have Peter Rea. Peter, did I pronounce your name correctly?
It's Ray.
Rea. Okay, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Peter Rea. And Peter is a part owner and a chief innovation and sales officer at Boomering, a purpose-driven BPO that helps businesses scale with skilled, culturally aligned offshore teams in the Philippines. With a straight-talking, people-first approach, Peter challenges traditional outsourcing models by focusing on retention, culture, and long-term impact for both clients and team members. He's passionate about building sustainable businesses that do the right thing by their people. Whether he's solving hiring problems or mentoring leaders on team culture, Peter brings clarity, care, and deep belief in raising the standard of what offshoring can and should be. So, Peter, welcome again to Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Bibi. How do you lead?
Thank you very much for having me, Dr. Bibi. What a great question. How do I lead? I think two ways are very dear to my heart regarding this. So I lead from the front, not from the back, and very much along the lines, do what I do, not what I say. So leading by example.
Fantastic. I'll come to that when I will, ask you more on how did you realize that you were a leader?
When did I realize I think, so I was very fortunate. I spent a lot of time with my grandfather as a young child. And my grandfather wasn't particularly a leader. He worked in a factory for over 50 years, but he never missed a day. If they were late for 15 minutes, you were doctor quarter, doctor half. And he was never doctor quarter and never missed a day. So he was very reliable, very strong, very dependable, but he was also very, very free thinking. He loved Shakespeare. And I remember I used to spend a lot of time with my grandparents as a young age, and he used to read me Shakespeare as bedtime stories, believe it or not. So I remember his very stoic nature, but also the fact that he's a very, very free thinker. So I think that a lot of the Shakespeare stories are what I talked about, Henry V. Kings don't stand at the back. He's in there. He's in the mix. He's hard charging, leading his men on, leading by example. So I think regarding leading, I'm kind of filled with those historic ideas and very noble and heroic ideas. But also, you have to walk in your people's shoes. I think where we've got technology, we've got AI, and it's taking us huge amounts of places very fast and very quickly. But I believe that you start and build from the ground up. Before Boomering, I spent 11 years commercial shipping, and I started on deck. So I learned what the guys on deck do. And then because I can't help myself, I'm always obsessing about doing better and bettering myself and striving for more. Then I moved up into a bosun position and I'm looking after the people on deck, but I walk their shoes. And then from bosun, I moved up into a very junior officer role. And at that junior officer role, I can absolutely see the bigger strategy that was playing out on the bridge, but I haven't forgotten those roots. I haven't forgotten when applying that strategy, what the people are experiencing on the ground. And then when I moved off the big ships and got my own captain's license, when I got a chance to run small vessels with my own crew of 3 or 4, I tended to do a lot of things that I noticed on the bridge wasn't good. Don't just tell your crew the ship is going here and expect them to run and jump. They're not invested. Yeah, your people need to be invested, not just in what you're doing, but in the direction you're going. As a company within Boomering, we employ 57 people. We do quarterly planning sessions as a leadership team. But after the quarterly planning session, we're very quick to have a town hall and share what's happened with all the other employees, get their feedback, let them know what we're planning on in this quarter, what the annual goal for the year is. If you imagine people in a rowing boat, if all the oars aren't dipping in the water and everyone facing in the same direction, the boat doesn't go anywhere, it just splashes around. So I think those really good leaders lead from the front, give direction, but have people invested. Give people a voice. You don't have to do what they say, but you have to listen. You have to respect what they're saying, understanding if it doesn't fit into the higher structure, explain how that doesn't work and get them on board again. So once again, you're moving off in the same direction. I hope that kind of explains it.
That does explain to a lot extent, and I don't think that the job is as easy as you sound it to be. I'm sure there is a lot of challenges and obstacles that you face. So I'll come to those challenges a little later, but first I would like to understand when you talk about becoming, so you were in the ship, is what I understand. And then how did you choose the BPO business?
Great question. So I left England when I was 20 years old and went to Egypt on a scuba diving holiday, fell in love with it and decided not to come home, and spent the next 7 years in Egypt becoming a dive master and dive instructor. I haven't lived in England since. So I spent the next 20 years working in Egypt, working in the Far East, in Thailand and in Malaysia, then in the Caribbean doing scuba diving. And that's when I got interested in yachting. So I got my captain's license, did yacht chartering up and down the Caribbean chain, then moved into yacht charter management. I went to Belize and was running charters out of Belize. I had a wife at that stage. We bought some land, we built a house, we had a dog, and I thought it'd be a wonderful opportunity for us to start a family, which is when I found out something I never knew, which I should have asked in hindsight sooner. Do you want to have children? And she didn't have any interest in having children at all. So we had a very amicable split and divorce because that is a bit of a non-negotiable for me. I came back to the UK and that's when I started my commercial shipping journey. And on commercial ships, you work a month, have a month off, work a month, have a month off. I've been doing about 6 months, and during my month off, I've just been living with my parents. I've been looking at houses. I had a mortgage arranged and everything, but I wasn't pulling a trigger. And I saw some lovely houses with my dad. And my dad sat me down in a pub and we were having a drink. And he said, "Look, what's going on, son? Why aren't you buying a house?" And I said, "I don't want to live in England. It's just not me." And he went, "Then don't go and live where you want." So I remember loving Thailand. So I went to Thailand. And I tried Thailand for about 18 months. So a month on ship, a month in Thailand, etc. But I couldn't make Thailand work. I think the religious and the communication barrier and the cultural barrier was the divide was just too big for me. And a friend of mine said, "Have you ever tried the Philippines?" And I went, "No." He goes, "Go and try the Philippines." So I did. Much closer on religion. The language is English here. The culture is very similar, but different. And then I started settling in the Philippines. So I was working a month on, a month off here in the Philippines. I do apologize. That's my phone ringing. And I don't, is it me? I do
Oh,
apologize. You might have to splice this because I don't know why that's happening. I'm very sorry,
I
Banya.
I won't stop recording. We'll just edit this bit.
I can't even see my phone. What did I do with my phone? I'm very, very sorry. That's on mute and it shouldn't be ringing. I don't know why that's happening. Okay, that's all completely shut up. I suppose again. Okay, I do apologize.
No problems. Let's continue.
Yep.
Okay, so you were
Yeah,
talking about,
yeah, so I tried the Philippines and I really enjoyed the Philippines. It's a much closer culture. The English language is spoken freely here. The religion is, even though I'm not religious, but I was born Church of England, but that's more understandable for me than Buddhism. And I said, okay, so I'm going to hang out here. And I'd only been here a couple of months. This is 11 years ago. And I met a guy called Dean Pascoe, who's actually the CEO and founder of Boomering. And we hit it off straight away and became very fast friends. And I think one of the reasons we're so close isn't just the fact we have really open, honest communication with each other. He knows more about me than anyone in the world. He knows all my shames. That's a lot of responsibility. But it's also, Dean is a very, very giving person. He's got what I say, he's got smooth edges. I can tend to be quite abrupt and abrasive and blunt, no fluff. So we fit very well. He smooths my rough edges and I help roughen his smooth edges a little bit. So we were doing great guns. I was still working on the ships and everything. Dean started Boomering in 2017. Wonderful. It was going fabulously, nearly 200 team members, and then COVID hit. And COVID, we all suffered, and Boomering dropped back to about 100 team members. We had to batten down the hatches, secure clients, try and keep as many team members as we could. We were all just surviving in those days. And then COVID finished, and a silver lining for Boomering was we're no longer explaining what remote work is. Everybody experienced it because basically a team member in the Philippines is a remote worker. So it's intrinsic, everyone's got that idea. And then Boomering went through some really wonderful scaling. And Dean reached out to me. I was still stuck away in the UK at this time. I couldn't come back for the Philippines for nearly 2 years because of lockdowns. But Dean reached out and said, Boomering's doing really well. We're looking for investors. Are you interested? And I just said, when do you want the money and how much do you want? Because my investment was in Dean, not in Boomering. I knew his quality. So that means I know Boomering's quality. So that's when my investment happened about 4.5 years ago. When I finally got to come back to the Philippines, Dean took me aside for a drink and said, look, come join the company. I'm like, 32 years at sea, what am I going to do in Boomering? And he goes, I know you. You're a very smart cookie. You're good with people. You pick things up quickly. You're very relatable. I think one of my strong points is, even though I do things for a long time, I speak to my audience, not in offshoring language or shipping language. So I speak to people, not at people. If you want someone to understand you, speak their language. Okay? Don't dumb it down, treat them like children. They're an adult, for crying out loud. Just say stuff they understand. So I said, okay, why the devil not? And that was 4 years ago. I started off as a brand ambassador, and now I'm part of the leadership team, and I'm across the chief innovation officer and sales officer. And yeah, so that's how that happened. And I love the fact I can live here full time. Being away from my girlfriend for 2 years and kind of my family here in the Philippines, that was a big eye opener. I didn't like the fact that happened. I worked way too much, which made me money to invest, great, but put me in a bit of a dark place because I was doing too much work. So I really want to make sure I have a healthy work-life balance. And now I'm here in the Philippines full time. My girlfriend already had a daughter. She's 9 years old now, but I'm her father, not by biology, but she's my child. But because I'm here full time now, we've grown our family. We've got a beautiful 2.5-year-old daughter. We've got a 10-week-old son. We're not having any more. I've medically done something about that. We're fine with 3. Thank you very much indeed. But this is one of the big drivers for me, especially within Boomering, because people always ask, why do you do what you do? Now, I do what I do because it pays the bills, I help clients, and it makes me money. All good. Every business owner does that. But where's the passion from? And my passion is I have a beautiful family. We have a lovely house. We have security, safety, and opportunity. And I want Filipinos to have that as well. So currently Boomering look after about 560 team members who work for us and on behalf of clients. And I want to grow that number so more Filipinos get safety, security, opportunity. With Boomering, we employ people on clients' behalf legally, morally, and ethically correctly. So they sign a contract of employment in the Philippines with Boomering. Okay, so if you're in Australia, don't worry, they can't take you to court in Australia. Zero HR or legal risk for our clients. Boomering carries all that. All righty. But the government charge us 200 pesos, not a lot of money, for something called Pag-ibig-ER, a contribution to the government loan scheme. So when a team member starts, they're on 6 months probation. When that probation ends and they are now regularized, they can go to the government and say, look, I'm legally employed. I've got regular employment now. I would like to get a government loan through that program. And they can buy a house, buy land, renovate a house, buy a car. And that's where the opportunity comes in. And that's, like I said, one of the big drivers for me. Boomering, we do not give you access to offshore resource. We help you find skilled, exceptional human beings who will join your team. And you need to treat them, and we'll help you do this, we'll help teach you. You need to treat them like your onshore team. You treat your onshore team well, you have fun with them, everything's great, and they give back. You get that return on investment, not just financially, but emotionally and with growth. You need to treat your offshore team member with Boomering the same. They're part of your global team now. And I think that's a big differentiator for us, the human aspect.
So how does this work? So if I am a business, now I am, say, these are the functions that you do, right? What's on your wallpaper right now? Right. So from these, say I choose business support. So how does it work?
That's the beautiful thing, okay? You don't have to choose anything. My client, as long as you don't need a person in your country to fulfill a service, if their job function completely fulfilled online, then you can get yourself an offshore team member here in the Philippines. Okay. Now, a lot of people new to offshoring don't know what they're looking for. If you come to me and say, I'm a small startup, I need lead generation, I need cold callers, I need to grow my business. Sorry, you are not my client. I can introduce you to people in my network who can help you, but I can't help you. The people I help are the people who have done the hard work. They've done the grind. They are successful. They're growing. They're scaling. And along with that, they're creating bottlenecks. The owner and their team are doing all this low quality, repetitive work they shouldn't be doing. They should be on phone calls with clients doing the high value work. So they reach out to me and say, I've got a bottleneck. I've got a bottleneck. I need support for this person. This accountant is doing all the spreadsheets and trial balances and balance sheets. I need them talking to clients and giving tax advice. No problem. Let's get you an accountant in the Philippines who can do the spreadsheet operational work, freeing up your accountant in Australia, America, or the UK, so they're doing that strategic work for you. So first of all, that's my client. We identify the bottlenecks in marketing, in finance, wherever. In construction, it could be quoting, estimating. Once we've helped you nail down where your bottlenecks are, we'll talk about what kind of a person and what function they fulfill to help you with that. and we build a job description together. And that job description is tailored about exactly what you want. Skills and experience, software you use, what qualifications they need. What's your company culture? If you want someone to stay long term, you need to align. I don't just give you a marketer. You want a marketer. If you're a dentist, let's say, looking for a marketer, you want someone who is interested in oral hygiene or has worked in the medical side before. So it all starts with that job description, Dr. BB. Once we've got the job description, I give it to my recruiters. I've got 8 of them. I do a lot of recruiting, and they'll look at it and say, right, based on this job description, a person could demand this salary. With that figure in hand, I then create a pricing for you, and it is ridiculously transparent. I do not link my profit to your team member. I don't hide anything. I don't mark things up, no hidden costs. So I'll show you their salary. I will show you the 8 government and non-government contributions I legally have to pay for that person to work for me, down to the peso, no markup, and I just pass it on. I charge a flat offshore fee. That's how I make my money. That's how I run my business operationally, financially. Okay? Doesn't matter how much your team member gets paid, the offshore fee remains the same. People go, oh, but if I've got a cheaper and less skilled team member, the offshore fee should be less. No, because all humans are equal. All humans get the same care, the same equipment, same looking after. That's why it's a flat offshore fee. I'm now impartial. I look after my client and I look after my team member equally. I don't try and boost the salary because there's nothing in it for me. If you're happy with the pricing on the project outline, if you like the idea of the service and how it's explained, you say to me, let's recruit. Awesome. This is what happens when you want to recruit. You stop talking with me directly because you're no longer a lead. I now convert you in my CRM from a lead to a client. And when you become a client, you've now got 57 Boomering team members working for you. I'll introduce you to an account manager who'll help you through recruitment, help you through the IT checklist, because I have ISO 27001 certification, help you through the service agreement, introduce you to a recruiter. You talk with them. They're going to be lead the charge, finding great people for you to look at and for you to interview. You're in control all the way. You choose who joins your company. I'll introduce you to finance if you've got questions about payroll. I'll introduce you to HR if you've got questions about contracts of employment your people sign. And then we walk you through the process. It's not until you go, I've looked at candidates, I've had interviews, I like Rose. I would like Rose to join my team. We'll finalize the salary, organize a start date, and I want everyone to notice at this stage, no one's talked about money. You know what it costs, but I haven't asked you for any. And I do that for a very specific reason. I lead with quality, I don't lead with cost. No upfront fee. You get to experience this quality of service. So all the time you're working with me choosing candidates, you get to know what it feels like to be a client. And it's reassuring because you're giving me a little small piece of your business to look after and a team member over here in the Philippines. So I want to reassure you. And then when everything's finalized, that's when I'll issue an invoice. That's when you pay. Your team member joins your company and culture. I take a step away. You have to onboard them yourself. You have to train them. You have to set performance requirements. They report to you just like you do with your onshore team. But I always stay in the picture doing regular check-ins to make sure things are running smooth. Everything's culturally aligned. Any issues, any problems. And there you go. That's my model. Oh, sorry. Finally, one thing is I don't lock you in on contracts. So if you want to leave me, legally in the Philippines, I have to give your team member 30 days notice. There's nothing in the contract that says, no, you have to stay with me for 6 months, you're not allowed to leave. Again, relying on quality of service. If you try and leave and take your team member with you, it clearly states in the service agreement there is a penalty for that. You know, if you try and cut me out of the picture, I will charge a premium before I let you go.
Right. This sounds pretty, the way you explained it, it sounds, like it's customer centric, but it's also people centric. So it is not that, your scale is dipping on one side and not the other. You've balanced both the ends, and you have, look after the people as much as you look after the client who is, who for whom you're getting the people. So
No, correct.
it,
Instead of a scale, I want people to think of a triangle.
okay.
On one side of the triangle is the client. On the other side of the triangle is the team member, and they touch, they interact, they're connected. And then underneath is Boomering, connected with both and supporting the whole operation.
Well, that's a nice way to describe it. And that is such an amazing way. And is that how you are, you described that, you're passionate about building sustainable businesses?
Yes, 100%. You know, we're within our own business, we're about longevity. I don't want a client for 3 months or 6 months. I want a client for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. It's stability and wonderful for the client so they can grow and scale. And it's wonderful for the team member so they can grow personally, professionally, and have stability. Quick story, I was speaking with a person in the UK a couple of weeks ago. And this person, they're awful close to needing an executive assistant. He's a one-man band and he does a really good job selling products. And it's basically sprayers and strippers. And he's realizing he needs to spend more time out there talking with clients, talking with power partners, rather than running the back end of his operation, doing marketing, invoicing. So he was thinking about an executive assistant. And after we'd talked for about 30 minutes, I said to him, "You're not my client." And he went, "What?" And I said, "Do you know what I could do? I could quite literally find you someone, make it work with the money and have them join you. And within 3 or 4 months, you'd realize you didn't need them. It was the wrong time. Let me introduce you to somebody else who's a client of mine in the UK who runs automations inside CRM with AI, etc. They are who you want. They're a much cheaper option. They will free you up that time you need. So all your social media calendars handled, invoicing is done automatically, everything's there. That's going to free up at least 50% of your time so you can do that strategy. And they also do some coaching. I've got lots of clients with this company. They're all successful when they need me. So get Genie AI, get your coaching done, and I'll see you in 12 months. And hopefully he comes back.
Okay. I think that is a very smart businessman, because you are helping them understanding their business and helping them at the right time. And yet at the same time, you are creating that, you're forging a relationship which will ultimately lead to them coming back to you when they really need the kind of service you're giving.
Correct. And it's not just me being a smart businessman. I think it's a smart business model. That's how Dean developed it. That's the Dean I know. Dean, this is basically Dean in a business. Win-win, transparency, fairness, longevity. Everything about him is pulled into this business. For myself, it's just a great fit because I know I share those attributes with Dean. And for Ian Lovelace, the gentleman in the UK, maybe he doesn't come back to me. Maybe he goes to the pub 2 weeks later and is talking to someone who needs offshoring and he remembers that Peter was a really good egg. I need to do an introduction. Be careful who you touch because it's not them you're just touching. And I mean that obviously in our way. So it's not just them you're interacting and have a relationship with, it's everybody in their network.
But Peter, to reach to this level and the turning points that you have taken in your life, in your career life, um, what were the main challenges that you faced that helped transform you to be who you are today?
So I know the major challenge I felt was one of the reasons when I left the UK to go to Egypt 6 months prior. I have a very addictive personality. I'm very critical of myself, and I put a lot onto my shoulders, and that can build a very negative response. So I can suffer from depression. My mother was bipolar. I haven't been diagnosed with that. So I found myself when I was 20 years old in a beautiful care place in a lovely yellow room, having regular conversations with a couple of counselors for 2 weeks. And I think that is one of the most life altering things that happened to me. And it made me appreciate that life isn't materialistic. Don't make it about money. Okay. Life is life. It's what you live. It's who you interact with. I would love one of my, if I could make enough money so I could go back to my girlfriend's province and buy a big piece of land, split the land in half, build a house that's got a well, solar power. The other half of the land, or 3/4 of the land, I'd build some nice small houses, and I'd invite people in, and she knows people there, and they would farm the land, and they could sell the crop or do what they like and provide me with food. Imagine the life I'd have. Do I need money to have a beautiful life? No. You have a beautiful life by what you experience. So I think that was a very key moment for me. So when I went to Egypt on this scuba diving holiday, I recognized the opportunity. I don't have to be in an office working 9 till 5. My life ahead of me, house, white picket fence, 2.2 kids and the dog, all paid for with money, saving for retirement. No, breakout. Egypt, freedom, it's awesome, potential. I'm loving life. I don't need a ton of money. I don't have people relying on me at this moment in time. And that's why I took the jump and never went home. And that's led me to be very strong. Strong is not the right. As I get older, I struggle to find words. Funny how that happens. But I'm not afraid to take chances, even if they might not happen, or even if you think a year down the line that was a mistake. Don't live in regret. Look at the growth you've done and the opportunity and just pivot. You don't have to drive back down the road. You just have to take another turn and drive forward along another road. You know, my grandfather was also quite big into philosophy. I'm not a huge philosophizer, but I do remember him saying one of the phrases from Nietzsche is change is psychological loss. And when you hear that, you think of losing, it's a negative, but it's not. You have a lovely, you know, 6 months ago, I was in this lovely small townhouse with stairs. And I'd been in there for 5, 6 years. My girlfriend, my child, Patricia, my 2.5-year-old, she'd been born there and lived there. But then down the road, 100 meters, 6 months ago, a house became available. Single story, loads of land around it, huge big carport, back garden for the kids, 3 bedroom, no stairs. We're all over it, super excited. Jumped on the opportunity, got it, and now we're living in there, and it's so much more awesome. I still miss the old house. even though I'm in a better place. And I think that is change, is psychological loss.
I was thinking the same, that when you said that, it's a psychological loss, but it is kind of a payment one makes for developing or for transforming. Recently, my sisters and I inherited my father's property, and since I don't live where my father lived, and my other sister too doesn't live, so there's only one of us who lives there. And everyone, all his friends and everyone was saying that, what do you do with it? And why is it that you want to cling on to it? So, and the thing that I said is that, it's the same thing, what you're saying, that this is not something that you give up just because you have enough. And it is not something that you want to cling on to because you are scared of, you might not have enough or anything like that. It's not a security, but it's like an old book that you go back to read. Just like you would have an old book in your library that you go back to and you read and you go through the pages and you smell the book and you read the book and you experience whatever you had experienced earlier. That piece of property is the same for us. We go back there just to relive the moments that we have lived, and we are lucky. It's a lot of gratitude that we have that opportunity to at least not sell it and yet enjoy those moments, relive the past, and feel their presence there. So yeah, it's a loss, but it's a gain in a long run. That's how I look at it.
That's wonderful, because we all have to grow, we all have to move forward, and you don't want to live in the past, but it's okay to visit to see how far you've come.
Uh, Peter, we are practically coming to an end. There are three more questions that comes to my mind. The first is, you're doing a lot of things. You have, sort of transformed your career into something else. What you were doing earlier and you have changed it. Yes, there are threads of common threads in it, your passion being the most important one, I think. Um, how do you sustain your energy?
Very good question. Surrounding myself with good people who support me and are the opposite of my bad energy. I know where I can go if I'm left alone. If I hang around with people like that, I'm going there very fast. So I hang around with people on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Right. And do you search for these people or do these people just happen in your life?
Um, that's a fabulous question. That is really a fab. No, I don't think I've recognized them when I've never actively gone out and searched for them, except on a couple of instances on the early life when I needed help, and then also during my dark times when I 2 years away when I doing too much work. I went to see a counselor for a couple of months again. So in those instances, yes, but no, I think I've just recognized the people, and maybe I've been fortunate enough, or do you make your own luck? I've just been fortunate they've come into my life. That's a very good question, though. I've never thought about that.
Because it must be destiny to some extent. Because I feel that good people or people with whom, your vibes really match, I think those just happen. Those are not something that you can really plan or organize or, really get it to happen. I think it happens because it is just meant to happen. That's what I feel. This is my experience.
It reminds me when you're a youngster and you lose that girlfriend or boyfriend, and they say, "Don't worry about it. Just have fun, enjoy your life. Something will come along," and you don't believe them. And there you are, just having fun, being good, and love comes and slaps you in the face with a wet fish.
True, absolutely true. And I don't think this is only for romantic love. I think this is for all kinds of strong, positive emotions. It totally, totally matters. With that, there's the one more question that will come to my mind, and that is, what is the legacy that you are building, or are you building a legacy?
I've actually been, this came up a while ago. I think we are all building legacy, whether we know it or not. Okay. Personally, when I shuffle off this mortal coil, I want to make sure my family are secure. So that's a materialistic side. So they need to be secure. That my life changed. Yeah, so that has to happen. For me, myself as a legacy, I want people to recognize my passion and that I made an impact and that it was generally good.
Lovely. Love that. Peter, with this, I think we come to an end. And is there any way that you would like people to my audience to connect with you?
Yes, by all means. So my email address is peter@boomering, BOOMERING.ph, or you can find our website, see my profile page, and connect with me on LinkedIn, WhatsApp, or email there. I'd I'd love to talk with people. You know, some
Lovely.
people had a wonderful offshore, some people had a bad offshore experience, some people don't know about it. If you have a chat with me, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to have a real honest and fair appraisal of the offshore scene here in the Philippines and if it's for you or not.
Yes, I think you will give an honest, rendition of what you think the experience is going to be. I expect that. Thank you very much, Peter, for having been with me here. I just loved having you at Hivin and Vibin with Dr. Bibi. How do you lead? And for sharing all your insights and experiences. I believe that there are nuggets of wisdom here that I hope my audience is going to carry forward with them. Thank you again for being with me.
That's very kind. Thank you, Dr. Beebe. These are not my favorite things to do, and you made it very enjoyable.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure myself. Thank you. Bye bye.